What up, everybody? Before rolling Unique down the hill, Ronnie took his chain off his neck. And typically when your brother or close friend gets smoked, you would take his chain to his children or his wife, similar to what we saw Meech do in BMF Season 2. But if you smoke your enemy, you take the chain and take it to his enemy to show somebody that you handled their problem. Think about Monet bringing the Russians Kai's head in Ghost Season 2. Or how about back in the day, there was the story about how Jeezy put up a certain amount of money for Gucci's chain. But Gucci smoked one of the robbers in self-defense, and they never got Gucci's chain for Jeezy in the middle of that beef. In episode 5, Ronnie went to see Juliana about that work. But she told him as long as he is Unique's brother, she wasn't going to do business with him. After Ronnie told her Neek wasn't going anywhere, Juliana told Ronnie a story about her husband in an attempt to put a battery in Ronnie's back. And she might have done just that, because Ronnie went looking for problems, showing up at Neek's house after he had already moved out, telling Panessa about Unique and Rock, knowing that she would confront Neek and that Neek is hot-tempered and would come looking for him. But now that Neek is supposedly dead, I'm still in denial till they show that body. But that's just me. But Ronnie's going to take Neek's chain to Juliana so she will put him on with her cousin Joaquin and open up that faucet and Ronnie can get that work. But the problem is Ronnie's been out the game for a minute and he doesn't have any type of clientele, no corner boys, no distros or anything. And the only operation he knows of right now getting any type of money is Kanan's weed business. So Ronnie's going to take the brick he gets from Juliana and Joaquin and give it to Kanan on consignment. And put Kanan into the coke game, basically forcing him into it whether he wants to take it there or not. And that's how most hustlers get their start in the game, selling bags of weed before they get into the coke game. Kanan, somewhat, either though he was stealing rocks from his mom and selling them. Ghost, Tommy, Big Meech, Terry, and countless other hustlers. And that's how I got my start in the game, as well as how my coke plug first got started. This makes me to pause for a second and go back to a video I made a few weeks ago asking the question if the two couriers were Ghost and Tommy. Because Tommy told Diamond that he got his start out in the game selling bags of weed. And since him and Ghost started out working for Kanan, and since Kanan is about to transition from the weed man to the snowman, we got to ask the question, is this proof that those two couriers was young Ghost and Tommy? Either though Kanan might still sell weed also, because I never stopped being the weed man when I became the snowman. Also keep in mind that it's been said several times that Tommy was the only white boy in the whole neighborhood. So if those two couriers wasn't Ghost and Tommy, they're definitely changing the story and the narrative from OG Power, where Tommy was the only white boy in the whole neighborhood. And we do know that episode 6 will be Kanan's transition into the coke game, because the episode 6 trailer shows the club scene where Snaps is telling Kanan that business is booming and Ronnie is being funded by Snaps. So there will most likely be a small time jump throughout the duration of episode 6 for Snaps to be telling Kanan that business is booming because he hadn't even started working for Ronnie yet in episode 5. Another dynamic to keep in mind as Kanan transitions into the coke game, how will his couriers and Paul respond to this change? We have already heard it said by Paul that some of the couriers have quit because they didn't want anything to do with the weed business. So how many more will quit now when they find out that they're now supposed to be selling coke or crack? Because it's one thing to get caught selling a bag of weed. You might get probation or something like that. But to get caught selling coke or crack could mean some real time. And we already heard it said in the last episode that Javon also quit after he got arrested and Famous got roped up. So what is the chances that all the couriers will end up quitting, leaving Kanan with just Ghost and Tommy to be his corner boys and make the runs? And that's why Tariq told Dre, my dad, Kanan, and Tommy all used to run drugs for a man named Breeze. But imagine how crazy of a way to get into the coke game this is going to be for Kanan. Because right now he's just in the weed business, and making that transition is a huge jump. So he's going to have Ronnie Myers showing up at his door, giving him a brick, and forcing him into the coke game. But what's going to happen is Kanan's going to move that brick so fast, the money's going to come so fast and be different from the weed game. He's going to double down his commitment to the game, because we can see he's pretty much already addicted to the game, just running his little weed business. And how I got into the coke game was almost just as crazy as how Kanan got into the coke game. Like I've said, I had already been the weed man for a few years, but I was also an alcoholic during this time period. So I went out one night after trapping and drinking all day with a few stacks in my pocket. I woke up the next morning on my boy's living room floor, and the money in my pocket was gone and replaced with a bag of coke. I asked my boy what happened, and he told me that night I got drunk and he talked me into getting into the coke game. But honestly, I think I passed out and he took the money out of my pocket and bought the coke so he could get a cut. Either way, I left and had the whole bag sold within a few hours. And after making money that fast, there was no turning back. So I called my boy and he hooked me up with his plug, and everything went good for about a month. Then one day the guy sold me a bag of fake product and skipped town. I didn't test the product, so I didn't even know until I had some guys calling me threatening my life. But by then it was too late. I had made too much money in that month to turn around. So I tried another connect and got robbed at gunpoint. This forced me to contact my first weed plug, who had that Reggie Miller, before I was making any kind of real money in the game, who I hadn't spoken to in a year or two. But he was actually from out of town, just living in my city. Little did I know that he had that A1 Coke faucet coming in from out of town, and the rest was history. A couple months later, I even stopped drinking because too much money was coming in for me to be drunk and off my game like that. Either though I never quit smoking weed every day. So I said all that to say this: who Kanan starts out working for, Ronnie, might not be who he hustles for long term. Because we know that Kanan will work for Breeze long term, before Ghost takes out Breeze and Kanan becomes the boss. So either Ronnie is Breeze, or Breeze will be Kanan's plug after Ronnie, and who Kanan works for long term. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.